Jimmy. How's Jimmy?
I've had better days, but things kind of headed in a good direction, so I'll take it.
That's good.
How you doing?
Yeah. Call to order the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners Monday, June 22nd, 2020 at 6 o'clock. As always, we'll start with invocation. I'll ask Commissioner Langford to lead us, please.
Okay, if you would, pray with us. Eternal God, as we come before Thee this day, we ask Thy blessings upon each one this year, upon all the things that's going on on earth right now. We know You there. We know that You'll be there to protect us. We know that You are the living God, the eternal God. And for that, we just so thankful, and we'll just always look to You for guidance and leadership and understand that all things are possible for those who love the Lord. Go with us now, lead, guide, and direct, for we ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Please continue standing for our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Get approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Any discussion?
See my note about the,
All right, before the approval of the agenda, we need to request that the budget amendment number 120 be added to consent agenda. This amendment is due to having to replace the compressor on the air conditioning unit for the upstairs of the DSS building.
there's a copy of that budget amendment.
Motion still stands with the amendment, the budget amendment. Motion to approve still stands with budget amendment added.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I now move on to our comments from our commissioners and our manager. Start with Commissioner Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just welcome everybody that's here in the room with us tonight and online, hopefully a few folks. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Walker.
Thank you, sir. Good to see each person here, as Commissioner Morris said, and glad you're taking time to be here for whatever reasons brought you our way. Hope you'll feel free to always come be a part of our meetings. And I think we probably have some people on our live stream, so I'd like to welcome them to our meeting also. Plus, really pleased with what we have outside the window here. Did y'all notice that coming in?
Mm-hmm.
Our memorial, and I don't think there was any cost to the county, was there? Do y'all remember?
Yeah, there was.
There's an organization that does that, and just very blessed that they chose us to put a nice memorial like that here in our county. Very thankful. I'll stop there, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Langford.
Okay, I'd like to have a thought or two for today, and it comes from Psalm 103:11. Whereas the heavens are high above the earth, so great is His mercy towards those who fear Him. As far as the east is from the west, so far has He removed our transgression from us.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Mendenhall.
Thank you. I just want to welcome everybody for coming out tonight. I know it's hard to come out on a 80-degree evening, beautiful sunshine, and be in this building. But thank you for coming out. And all the people that is watching on YouTube, we welcome you also. And that's about all I have for this evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Also, I'd like to thank y'all for being here today. Sound a little stuffy. It's hot, cold weather we've had here lately. It's starting to catch up with me. So I'm not going to speak a whole lot. I'll just go ahead and turn it over to our county manager, Mr. Oakley.
I'd like to welcome everyone, and I hope you enjoy our beautiful county. Do it smart and wise with common sense.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Move on now to public comments. Was there any, Shannon? No. Okay, no public comments. With that, we'll go ahead and move to approval of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
I have a second.
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in
One quick
favor?
question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
On that second budget amendment, Julia, what was that one for? One from the enterprise fund, I think.
Number 19, that's just taking care of any accounts to make sure they're not over from the end of the fiscal year.
Oh, okay, okay.
But I got more money.
I just wondered if you were doing to make some specific purchase or something.
No, it's just reducing fund balance.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, now move on to our information agenda. Item A, the tax office, information on Hauser Road. Mr. Oakley.
Mr. Chairman, I told Richard Brim that I would handle this for them, their mapping department that does the address and just taking some time off. This right here is a road that's had some problems with Surrey County, duplication of the name. The Stokes County and the tax office, along with Dale Hall and the Sheriff's Department, are moving forward in rectifying this problem. As you can see in your agenda, we've been talking to DOT. Now there could be a name change, or we could change the range of the roads, which would change their address. So either way you look at it, the folks on Hauser Road will change their address. And then some of them, I think, are considering an option 2, which would allow them to just actually change the name to Hauser Spring Road. So whichever way the individuals that lives on this road would like to do it is probably the way that the tax office, sheriff, and 911 will accommodate them the best they can to get this problem rectified. Because the last thing we want to do is we don't want to make sure that any 911 call that comes out of Hauser Road is not attended to in a proper manner. So I'm asking the board to review this, and once they find the solution that the individuals want to do, it's a possibility. It could come back to you. If it's just a range number change, then it won't. They'll just make the difference. They'll change their address. But if it's a road name, it's got to come back for county approval. So I want to give you that update.
Any questions or comments on that, Commissioner Morris?
Mr. Chairman, what if the people object to it and don't want to do it?
I would think that, well, that's always that possibility, but the ones that are here that was wanting it are concerned about the 911 not being able to get to them. They're thinking, that the call is trumped to Surrey County and it goes to that one. I think the majority of the people want to right now with our address and ordinance. When we had it before, when I was in the tax office, as long as we got 51% signed over, we could move forward with it, and I think you definitely got that.
Okay. I'm just curious.
But they will have to sign a paper and a waiver form.
I just wonder if they'll say, why don't the people in Surrey change theirs instead of us? I mean, that would be a logical question, and so.
So, got a thing of numbers. I think it's, 10 or 12 on Stokes side, and the one in Surrey County has got 30 or 40 houses. So it's just,
A lot more affected addresses.
just affecting the effect of the number of folks.
Okay.
Any more questions, comments? Okay. Move on now to item B, the Charters of Freedom dedication information. Mr. Mark Dellenhop.
Yeah, I just wanted to take an opportunity and let y'all know what to expect at this dedication ceremony. We're planning for Wednesday of next week, and I gave y'all each one of these, and you have such a good clerk to the board. She's already pointed out some typos to me, so this is a rough draft, and thank you for that, Shannon. We'll get that straightened out. But again, I want to take this opportunity to let the commissioners know what to expect at the dedication ceremony scheduled for next week. And the event will begin at 12:30 with the 208th Army Band out of Concord playing patriotic themed music. I expect to have 3 different food trucks open for business and ready to serve lunch about 11:30. There'll be Big Mouth cheesesteaks, LA Natty's Pizza, and Mr. People Feeder, which I believe is the barbecue joint. Eddie McGee has agreed to MC this event. He's got a lot of experience with that, and I thought I'd tap into our county talent here. And he'll begin about 1 o'clock by welcoming everyone, and then there'll be the invocation, and the King American Legion has agreed to handle the presentation of the colors, which will not only include our American flag, our state flag, but also our Stokes County flag. I didn't even know we had one, but we'll have one, and it'll be hoisted high for all to see out there. This will be followed by the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance. And then each municipality has been invited to have a representative say a few words regarding what these documents mean to them and the people of their community. We've also invited a representative from the Stokes County Board of Education to say a few words. And I'd just like to mention that one of the primary goals of this structure is that it will be used as an educational tool by educators to teach future generations about the principles by which this country was founded on. So utilization by our local schools is critical to the long-term success of this project. Next, I have asked representatives from law enforcement, someone from our local judicial system, and our state lawmakers, Kyle Hall and Phil Berger, to say a few words regarding these documents, what they mean to them. Miss Virginia Fox and Mr. Patrick McHenry, both members of our United States Congress, were originally planning on speaking, but were called back into session, I believe. And so instead, they will be sending representatives to speak on their behalf, and likewise with, in respect to Senator Tom Tillis. Finally, the Vance and Mary Jo Patterson, who are the founders of Charters of Freedom, will say a few words about how it all began, their vision for not only Stokes County Charters of Freedom setting, but also the 29 others that have already been placed across our nation. This will be the 30th. Then Mr. Patterson will ceremoniously gift the monument to Stokes County, and will be presenting a plaque to our chairman. This event will wrap up with Mr. Patterson reciting the 7 articles of the United States Constitution and the firing of 7 cannons as each one is read. It is my hope that our sheriff, our county manager, and all 5 members of the Board of Commissioners will agree to serve as cannoneers. To be a cannoneer, all you got to do is pull a string when you're pointed to, I think. So that's all I have, and I'd like to introduce Jennifer McMillan. She's with the Charters of Freedom organization. She's new with the organization for a couple months. And I believe this will be your first dedication also.
Dedication.
So,
And I did want to say thank you for partnering with us, and it's not a one-time transactional kind of dedication. We're working with your Stokes County school system. I had a chance to meet with Doug Rose today. We supply materials for a curriculum, a lot of 3rd through 5th grade classes, but also civics classes in middle school and high school. We want to make this accessible, to have field trips, accessible to veterans. We were able to help fund gas, accessible buses, things of that nature. So we go forward with you partnering to make sure this is your communities, it's what you want it to be. If you want to have Boy Scouts camp out here and serve as sentry and stand guard, a DAR meeting, a veterans lunch, whatever it is, it's what it means to you, and we're here to partner and make sure the school system has adequate materials and curriculum, as well as the veterans also have an opportunity to make it part of their community. So we're really excited about Mark Delahant, the commissioner, as the county manager, and everybody really coming together to make this a really great thing for a community to have something to look forward to, come out and be a part of, and be proud of it. So we're very thankful.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on that for anyone?
Need to be here at 12:30, he said.
12:30 with the band. The actual speaking engagements will begin at 1 o'clock with Eddie McGee welcoming everybody, and we'll start off then.
It'd be good if folks were here by 12:30.
It would be great, especially if you're a cannon puller.
Call that a lanyard yanker.
Yeah, there you go.
You're not allowed to point it at anyone. Either.
Got a real shell on it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to,
It has, like,
Shotgun shells?
yes.
I'd like to thank Charters of Freedom in advance, maybe in preparation for our event next Wednesday, for what you've done for our county. It's a real blessing to be able to come up the sidewalk there and see something in place like we have, and I really applaud you, commend you for the work you're doing to really boost up communities. It's a very positive thing, and I just want to thank you for it.
Let me make a quick mention of somebody that donated the lighting. There's some nice LED lighting that's going to light them flagpoles and actually installed inside the monument itself that'll illuminate the Charge of Freedom at night, and it's going to be beautiful at night. And all that was donated through Hubble Lighting and TK Electric, who we do a lot of business with here, and State Electric, who's a electrical supply place located in King. All not a nickel to the county. They came out, labor, materials, everything. And I just want to take an opportunity to make special mention of them.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add, based on what Mark's just shared with us, if you would please give them my thanks for being a part of our project.
And we will have plaques for anybody who did donations, be it materials, labor, in-kind donations, and acknowledge them. And anybody who comes to the dedication will be part of our time capsule ceremony, which will be open in 2087 for all our young friends that will join us. And it's going to be on the 300th anniversary. They will be open at the same time throughout our nation. The short-term goal of Foundation Forward is to have one in every 100 county of North Carolina, 46 of South Carolina, and then we do work throughout the nation and have to share the Carolinas with the rest of the nation, so we do that as well.
Y'all make sure you mark your calendar for 2087 so you
Yeah,
don't miss
yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
2087, year 2087.
No, it's July 1st.
Oh, July 1st, yeah.
I'd be 143.
You never know.
They gonna work about 2087. You're still here. The year 2087, they gonna have a time capsule.
I ain't going, I'm not going, I'm gonna be around.
Thank you guys for that. We'll move on now to discussion agenda. Item A, request to amend the non-conforming use of policy section 70 from YMCA campaigns. Mr. Oakley.
Mr. Chairman, this is a request to amend the non-conforming use of our policy on properties that have been grandfathered in or is a grandfathered property due to existing use. This is for a shooting range that the YMCA has on their property. They previously requested a permit to improve it. They wanted to make it a little more safe, a little more productive, a little more modernized. But what happened in doing this, they would need to move it. In my questioning and talking with the Y on this, why it was being moved, because that's what the problem is. They can fix what's existing, but if it's moved, our ordinance will not allow that. So that shut this project down. In this, I asked them what was the reason why they were moving it. I'm sure David and everybody asked. Their reason for this was to modernize it, make it safe, plus get it away from the campers and the children and stuff and visitors they have in their camp throughout the year and summer and throughout the year. And it would just make it more safe for everyone involved. With this, they are requesting that an amendment be placed to the non-conforming use policy that will allow existing grandfathered shooting ranges, but I don't think we have no more than 2 in our county, but you know, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, that will allow them to fix any problems they may have that would make it more safe. And that's what we are after anyway. It's just to get the policy and the text in it to where that allows them to fix problems they may have. In doing this, you would ask David, planning director, and the planning board to look into this along with Ty in coming up with the verbiage that needs to be written for this policy, and upgrade and amendment. And if you're in agreement with that, once it comes back to you, then you'll see how it plays. I don't think it needs to be any additional, and it don't need to be on any other piece of land that it's already on. That's one thing that the county had talked about previously, is they didn't want to start a lot of shooting ranges in Stokes County, but being that these were already there and in operation, they fall under the non-conforming use, but they're just wanting to enhance it and get it a little further away from where the camp is actually located. They have a 22 site and they have a shotgun site. And in your agenda, you can see the maps and where it's at. And on both sides, this would get it further away from the actual camp, and which I agree with, and I'm sure you guys will too. And if we can get something that would allow them to improve the safety of it, I think it would be something that you can be with. But also we have Derek Edwards, which is the director for the Stokes YMCA, and we have Darrell Head, which is the chief operating officer for the district of YMCA. If you guys would love to talk to them a little more about it and ask them any questions about why this even started and learn a little more about it, they're here. They'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have on it. But what I'm requesting today is for the commissioners, if they agree with this, to request the planning department and the planning board to look into it along with Ty and coming up with the verbiage and having this amendment attached to your policies and then brought back to you at a later date for approval.
Any questions or comments, Commissioner?
I have no questions. I see Jen sitting back there also, so.
Sorry.
I know Jen and I serve on a couple of boards together. She is up at the camp, and my only comment is, does Jen, Derek, or Darrell have anything extra they want to add to what our county manager said? Any of the three of you?
Not at this point, Darrell, do you have anything you want to? Yes, it's okay. Sure. Yeah, that's all right.
Thank you guys for having us here tonight, and commissioners and county manager, assistant county manager, and staff. Thank you for allowing us to be here. The YMCA is proud to do business in Stokes County. We have since 1927. I just want to tell you a little bit. I'm representing Jen and Derek, but also the YMCA of Northwest North Carolina, which is a 7-county, 16-site association. But we're, like I said, very proud to do business here in Stokes County. We have 23,000 people that come to our operations here every year, both camp and the YMCA. We employ 300 people at those two locations. Derek was telling me on the way up, we're the 8th largest employer in Stokes County, according to the Stokes County Economic Development site. And and it's both of them together are about a $4.7 million business. So great to be here in Stokes County. This process started probably in 2016, 2017. We were looking for a way to modernize our shooting range. We've been shooting 22s, or shooting's been a part of camp since we started in 1927. And the current existing range, Commissioner Nicholson has been up and seen our current range. It's woefully inadequate right now and needs some upgrades. In order to do so, we also have a creek that runs right through it, or right behind it, and that's kind of why the existing range can't be shifted or anything to improve it. We also have use of that mountain with hiking trails and biking trails and that kind of thing, and so we don't, our land is kind of limited as to where we can actually shoot, so that we're not shooting into hikers. We don't want to do that. And so yes, if we could move it up to this location. We have a partnership we had formed a partnership with the North Carolina Wildlife Federation. They've come in on this and want to help improve that, want to help expand shooting to allow more campers to do it during the year. And so, like I said, the people that are already coming in, but also we could have shooting teams from like high schools and that kind of stuff up and take advantage of a modern range with berms that protect people and also control sound and make it just safer all around. But we'd like to just improve the experience, make the location, kind of move it up there with shotgun so it's easily controlled. All the shootings happen in the same location. And we can make sure that we're offering the best experience to kids, families that are learning about guns, ammunition, and you guys have probably heard this. I mean, all guns and ammunition are all-time high sales right now, and we got to teach people how to use them. Not just they buy them, but we got to teach people how to use them safely. So that's what the YMCA is trying to do, along with showing the shooting sports. So thank you for your consideration. We can answer any questions, but we appreciate y'all letting us do business here in Stokes County and for considering our thing tonight. So thank you.
Commissioner Walker?
Thank you, sir. First, I want to thank you for being here, Derek and Jen. And, Derek looks a little different from how I remember him being. He's catching up with me. But your campaigns and the Stokes Family YMCA are assets to our county. And I've said along at different times, I wish we could ramp up the county's involvement in recreation. I think we're doing enough to meet certain needs, but I think there's a lot of opportunity we're still leaving there. So I hope sometimes Y representatives and the county can get together and take a good look at future potential, where there's opportunity that fits the Y's ability to provide services and match the county's needs, recreational needs. But I appreciate the Y's presence here in our county. I've supported the Y pretty much all along. I've always felt like we needed to be doing more for recreation. I don't think we're being fair to the Y and fair to the county, just having a limit and saying that's all we're going to do. So maybe sometime that can be looked at. Also, I'm hearing a lot of people say, when's our Y going to get back to normal?
Yes, sir.
I really don't know what to tell them, so I say that's pretty much in the states and state government and Y's hands, but I know there are a lot of people wanting business as usual there at the Y.
We do too. Yes, sir. We watch every governor's news conference and are always crossing our fingers, and that's what it's going to take. We watched the one today, and we were supposed to be in phase 2. Now we're hoping that phase 3 starts on Monday or Friday as it should, and hope to be included in that. That wasn't the update today. They didn't make a statement on it today, so we're hoping. I think he's doing another news conference on Wednesday. We're hoping that's the case, but we've got to be able to fall in line, and we've got a plan to operate our buildings very safely. We did before, but we've got a plan to ramp up cleaning, to ramp up everything that the governor asks for, and the health department asks for, but we want to get open too. We're ready. Yes, sir.
And we've been very fortunate here in our county. I know, it seemed like someone said we had a death associated with the virus. And out of 100 people, that's about 1%, so that's probably less than a regular flu. But still, it's a sad situation. I don't like to see anybody harmed by it, but I really don't. I know our citizens are very concerned about the harm that's being done with all these precautions, because people need things like the Y. They need to get out of their house. They need some exercise and a chance to get out and enjoy activities, and folks are just getting really frustrated. So I hope Wednesday we do get some good news. And thanks again for being here and working with us. Got one question about your shooting ranges.
Yes, sir.
One of the concerns citizens have about those kinds of activities seems to be noise. Will there be any change as far as the direction the noise is coming from, or anything with a new location versus the older location?
So the 22s have not seemed to be a problem.
No, they're not much noise.
Right, and so we haven't had much feedback on that. In fact, when we had the Wildlife Commission out, they did a noise study, and the 22s they could barely hear from all around camp. So, and then the berms and stuff that they would create in creating this range would actually also help control sound. So it shouldn't add any more sound. The Wildlife Commission was actually also going to help us at the time. Now, I've got to go back and revisit with them because this was 2 years ago, but they were going to help us with the shotgun range. We've already put several things in place to try to control sound there, from softer shells to some insulation around where they shoot, planting some more trees. They were also looking at maybe helping us turn the range a little bit so that it would shoot not straight into the mountain, but turn it some. But that's all hinges on this going through and having a partnership with them, which they're interested in, so.
I commend you for wanting to train people to handle firearms safely. And I've been hearing things like you shared with us. There's a renewed interest, a strong interest in firearms these days. Some places have sold out of ammunition, certain types of guns, but it's part of our American heritage also. It goes back to, I think it's the Second Amendment. And I think it's good for people to know how to do things. It would be good for folks to have the opportunity to have the training you provide. So I support what you're doing and hope you're able to work it out with the wildlife folks. And you'll have no problem with me here in the county.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Morris?
Hey, good to have you here tonight.
Thank
I would share Jimmy's comments a little bit. When I was county manager here before becoming an elected official, Sheriff and I were up on the mountain with people that have decimeters or whatever you call them that can measure the decibels. And they all have them up there in those houses. So I would encourage you guys to really work hard to try to make sure the noise level doesn't get out of hand.
Right.
And also the frequency of shooting, I think, was an issue as well.
We've reduced that too. That was part of, some steps we put in place after meeting with you guys.
Yeah.
We reduced the number of hours, reduced the number of days. We've gone with softer shells. We've, taken a midday break. So we used to play a game where it was repetitive fire, and we've stopped that game. So it's
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I would just encourage you to take those folks into consideration, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure you will.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions or comments? Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys again.
All right, we'll move on to item B, the EMS station. One bid for construction. Ms. Glenda Pruitt.
Perry wasn't able to be here tonight. He went on vacation on me, so. As you've seen in your packet for the agenda, we did receive the bids on the 10th. We're not the numbers we were definitely hoping for by far. So they all were received, all of them that was received was over budget. Davy Construction was the lowest bid at $778,000. So Perry is in the process of reviewing to see where cuts can be made, but kind of as we all know, Perry usually does the minimum. We don't go overboard, so we're not sure how much we can get down on small things, or there wasn't any really large things that were in there. But he is in the process. There is a percentage that we can kind of work with and not have to rebid the whole entire project out. But if we do go above, is somewhere around 10%, then we will have to reject everything and then start all over with different plans or something to that nature. So I would like to request the board to proceed on so Julia can continue on with financing, but it is basically up to you all.
Questions, comments? Commissioner Morris?
Yes, I got a question. Have we already got some drawings? What's going to take place with this
Yes.
building?
Yes, you all approved those a few weeks ago,
Okay,
or a couple meetings ago.
okay. And that's, it hadn't been any changes to that, is what you're
No.
saying?
No.
Yeah, I know,
Perry was very hopeful it would be coming in
Yeah.
under due to the COVID, but I'll just be honest, the first one that was read, I about fell out of my chair. Because it was definitely not the lowest one. And I kept waiting for that surprise, but there was never a surprise one.
so what you're saying, we just had one bid?
No, there was a whole list.
Okay, I got it.
But that was the cheapest one. There was two that was in the basically somewhat same ballpark. The others were majorly over and above.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Morris?
Yeah, I fell out of my seat too.
That makes me feel a little better.
There's no way I'm supporting something this expensive. If we have to start all over or do whatever, when you get to our next agenda item, you see what the real cost with the indirect is, $890,000. Parks, a couple ambulances, and sleep a few folks. I can't convince the community that that's a smart decision. I've actually talked to some folks about it today, and I can't really repeat some of the comments I got back, but it's basically the thought was, this is ridiculous. To pay that much money with all the other funding requirements we have, no potential internet, salary study, all these things that need funding, to put this much money in a EMS station is, I'm really way out of whack with this bid. I mean, I was hurting at 650, and I really expected to come in less than that. And now we're in the stratosphere here as far as I'm concerned. So my recommendation would be, if we can't do something, we de-scope this project in a big way, not little things, big things. Because it just doesn't pass the smell test with the community or anybody else. What?
Are you finished?
I'm finished.
Mr. Walker?
Thanks, sir. Unless Commissioner Mendenhall wants to go, or?
No, you go ahead.
But I'm surprised too. I've been hearing about the cost of construction just ballooning up. And I think what you're sharing with us about the EMS station is a good indication of just how fast and far it's going up. My question, as I sit here and hear Commissioner Morris's observation, is we need this EMS station. We've been talking about doing it for a good while, and it's time to find a way to get it done. But this is a pretty big obstacle for us. So given something like this, Mr. Manager or Glenda, what do we do to kind of regroup and refocus and continue toward getting this needed station, getting it done?
Well, on the plan wise, I don't know that there's, in my opinion, there wasn't anything extravagant in it other than the required. You know, you do have to have a sprinkles building. I think that's could be, you know, I don't know what the major cost was. I did talk to a couple of the other contractors when we went out for the scale house. We had a pre-bid meeting over there, and they were asking, because a couple of them actually bidded on it, and I know one of their comments was that they were, it's easier to get and to get cheaper numbers when you have a larger project versus a smaller project. And even though to me this is huge, you know, because he was talking about the grading, you know, it's not a large area, it's a smaller area, but the people have to come in with the same big equipment. So, and he was talking about asphalt and concrete and things to that nature, that even though it's on a small scale, sometimes we have to pay more for the small scale versus the large scale. So, because I was kind of curious myself, I'm like, you know, was there something just extraordinary? And so that was kind of the things that the two guys that, you know, we were just in general conversation talking about, that's kind of what they run into when they were trying to get numbers to place their bids. And like I said, Perry is in contact with Davey to see if they, you know, had the same problems or if there was something that was just that we could cut that we didn't see as a huge expense that, you know, was something that we didn't realize.
So is he working to see what he can come up with to
Yes.
help keep this project moving?
And like I said, if we keep it under that threshold of basically it's around a 10%, then we don't have to send it all back out. But if we do, I mean, we'll do whatever we need to do, whether it's reject everything and start all over. You know, it's just a time factor, and that's basically up to you all how we need to proceed.
Just listening to my fellow commissioners, particularly Commissioner Morris's comments, he said he was struggling with a 650. Well, even if you take 10% off the low bid, that's still 700.
Right.
It's 50 over what Commissioner Morris said his number is. So it sounds like we really have some work to do. Wish we had done this sooner. I agree.
You can't till you get the bid though,
I
so.
know, I mean, I wish we'd done it a year ago.
Can't do much till then.
Oh, you mean you wish we built it sooner?
Yes,
I don't know if that'll help or not, it might have.
I think it would have. I think these costs have really gone up very recently.
Building materials has gone up. I mean, you got low supply right now in some places. Everything's kind of demand right now. So the prices have gone up over the last 6 months.
High demand, low supply, that'll do it. A lot of stuff there, but I really would like to see that station in place at as reasonable a cost as possible. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm not against the building the EMS station, but these numbers, they scare me to death, especially when we put one up on Upton King, and it's two stations. I mean, you got where you can handle 2 units, right? And that hadn't been but about 5 years ago.
No, sir, it's been to 2012.
Well, okay. Well, anyway, these numbers, something's gonna have to happen to these numbers before I can support it. Too high.
Commissioner Mendenhall?
Well, certainly, I think every commissioner was a little surprised at what the estimates came back. You know, we had sort of a number laid out that we were hoping to get it in. And really nothing, well, you can see on our list, Davy Construction at 778 was our low bid. Ranco out of Pilot Mountain wasn't far behind.
No.
I know we've done a lot of business with Ranco. I was a little surprised that one came in that high, but I mean, you know, what it is what it is. I would like, I don't want to give up on this project at this time in any way. Now, where we're at here with these numbers, yeah, they're high. And I don't think well, I can't speak for all the commissioners, but 3 have already said they would not support this, and I couldn't support this either as far as what we got right here now. But the land that is going to be, that if it's built, the land that was donated, was that not, is that not correct?
That's correct.
We paid nothing for the land.
Correct.
The gentleman gave us the land. And I think that was a big thing, because land is not cheap. You may think land is not much, but if you go around the county, and I'm talking to real estate people like Leon Inman and different people, and you know, it's just, they don't give land away.
Not often.
They did. He was gracious enough to donate the land at no charge. So I don't want to give in at this point and just say we're going to do away with the project. I think you, Brandon, Perry, Jake, our chairman, Mr. Nicholson, all need to keep working and see how low we can get it down, and then you can bring it back to our board and we can discuss it again at that point. I'm just not willing at this point to say, let's just forget it. But I certainly, we do need, I'm like the other 3 commissioners, we need a cheaper cost. I don't know what it would take, because I'm not an expert on every little thing that goes into the station, but if all of y'all work together, Perry, Davy Construction, Brandon, Jake, and our chairman, maybe you can come up with some magic.
We will try our best. Let's
Okay.
put it that way.
Thank you.
And my understanding, Perry will be back at the first of next week, so we'll definitely. He was gonna work on it some while he was gone, but we'll definitely get back with him.
Thank you, Glenn. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. So it sounds like we're gonna move this off till we get back with Perry, see if we can get change on it.
That's
See what we
fine.
can do. Unfortunately, the way I see it, even as it's laying right now, it's not gonna get no cheaper. I feel like things are gonna get more expensive as time goes on, but let's definitely see if we can do some refiguring on the building there and see what we can get done.
We sure will.
All right.
Okay, and I'll come back as soon as we find out something.
I had a couple more comments right quick.
Yes, sir.
One thing, we've got budget uncertainty with this virus, and it's so uncertain that we're having another review in October to see what happened, basically, as far as our revenues. So that kind of complicates the situation a little bit. The question you guys will get when you tell somebody this, and I've had the same question twice today, when you get the numbers up high like this, they say, why don't you just fix up the building you got for a whole lot less money? And, I don't know how much it costs to do that, but that's what the way people think out in the county, that when you talk about spending this kind of money. And so I don't know, maybe you de-scope it and make it modular where you can add a module later or something, maybe just redesign it a little bit to do something like that. But yeah, Andy's right, I don't think the price of the construction is going down, so that means we got to de-scope what we asked for. That's the only way we'll get it down, so.
I do know that our current building that they're in now, the new ambulances will not fit in it, correct?
But if I spent $500,000 on it, I bet I can get them.
Well, yeah.
Even 400 probably.
But I know that's one of the issues that we're
I
running
know
into.
that's why we're doing it, but,
Yeah.
but, that ain't a big problem for a construction person
Yeah.
to solve.
I guess we can look at
You
that
give,
option.
you give them some money, but that's the question, the normal question. Again, I got it twice today without prompting anybody, exact same question, so. But that's the danger we have with running these giant numbers on a project like this. That's all I have.
Mr. Walker?
Thank you, sir. Sounds like we definitely have a challenge. And my question at this time is, are there any alternatives, sort of thinking outside the box? Another building, existing building that could be used till we feel comfortable with a new building? Any options that
I don't know of
haven't
any
looked at
right
at this
off, other
point,
than,
but could we maybe take a look and see if there's anything around that could be used at least to help the situation we're in, but not have to spend the kind of money we're looking at here?
we can definitely check into it.
So at the same time, you're checking to see if we can get a lower cost on the new construction. And you'll be checking, I believe you mentioned, to see if there are any other options we haven't looked at yet.
Right.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We move on to item C, the resolution authorizing the negotiation of installment contract. Ms. Edwards?
That's got,
It's got everything to do with this, so
Oh,
so that's gonna be put on hold.
What
All right.
we need to do about as far as the financing, do I need to put a halt to it, or?
Yes.
Yeah. So we, see what we're gonna do. All right, item D, the solar farm. Commissioner Morse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked that the solar farm moratorium be put back on the agenda, just to see where you guys were thinking about this. I think I suggested this to start with after we approved the first solar site in Walnut Cove, so that we could basically kind of drop back and see what the impacts of that solar site would be, and also wait for the state to complete their work on a bunch of standards that they're working on during the next couple of years for recycling of solar materials and all that sort of thing. So anyway, so I came up with this resolution that I think we tabled it for 12 to 18 months because at that time we thought we didn't have any idea any more solar farms would be coming. What's happened since then? Well, we've already got another one as big as the first one that we've approved. And if we don't do this, then I'm afraid these things are kind of going to get out of hand. There's another one that's been discussed with David up in planning that is supposedly bigger than the first two. So if we approve that one, we will be getting up close to 1% of the county is covered with solar. When you get to 3,000 acres, that's 1% of the county. And we'll be approaching that number if we have another one about the size or a little larger. Some of the ordinances in other places, they put limitations on, like one David mentioned to me, they had a limitation in their ordinance of 1% of the county was all they would approve for solar farms. So I brought this back up, we make a couple points here that I wrote down. First of all, as I've said many times, they're not a good investment from an economic development perspective. When we actually got through all of the fluff and the numbers that the guys presented at the last dog and pony show, we figured out that we get $2,000 a month off that solar farm we just approved. That ain't big economic development in a $50 million budget. So we go, and I mentioned this before, but we go out of our way to regulate the heck out of cell towers. We got this whole consulting group, and we jerk everybody through 50 knots to try to get a cell tower, and if two people disagree with it, it doesn't go anywhere. And yet we put thousands of acres of solar farm out with no consultation from anybody. So, if we're not going to regulate solar sites, I don't think we should regulate cell towers. Just let the people spend it, make a deal with the cell tower if that's where the company wants to put them, and put them there too. I mean, they take 100 by 100 square feet versus 700 acres or more per farm. So to me, I would recommend that if we do a moratorium, that we look at maybe finding a consultant because all we've heard is the pitches and the dog and pony shows from the folks who want to put the cell systems in, the cell farms in, and every one of them seems like it's close to water, close to the river, close to floodplain areas, and there's all these questions that I ask all the questions, I get all these little general answers back that really don't tell me anything about environmental contamination and other possibilities that could happen. Now I read an article just the other day, there's big questions on whether they're going to continue to be subsidized by the government. And who knows what the impact will be of what they've agreed to or not agreed to if the subsidies go away. I think that's really what's been driving a lot of this rapid acceleration of installing these things. It's a really inefficient way to produce power. That's why it takes hundreds of acres to get like a 12 or 15% efficiency rating on power generation. And then every time we approve another one, it makes it harder not to approve the next one because we're really setting a pretty strong precedent when we do that. I'm kind of curious, and I wouldn't mind if the board would like to have the county manager send a letter to those first two guys that we've approved already and ask them, whenever these state standards come out, and if they are not required to meet them, if they will agree to meet them anyway. I'd be really curious what the answer would be to that question. If they would commit to meeting whatever the state comes up with on the standards for the ones we've already approved. And then I think another problem with us not addressing this in our ordinances and everything is the fact that, we haven't given the planning board anything to work with. So I guess they'll just approve every one that comes through. The last one I think was by one vote. But I think from a policy perspective, we need to have some kind of ordinance in place before we get overrun and become a dumping ground for these solar farms and put them in some of the most beautiful parts of the county, which is where the last one that we approved is going over there on Tuttle Road. And then eventually, we're going to be up to where you can stand on Moore's Knob and look down and see them flashing in the sunshine. And with cell towers, those all go up to the committee at the Hanging Rock Park, and if it's even within a certain distance of them, if they can even see it, they won't even consider approving them. Like an automatic no on cell towers. So, I don't know what they'll think when they see solar panels out flashing in the valley from all of our high observation points up there. So anyway, I just think we haven't done all the thorough due diligence and research. We haven't had the folks. There's a lot of folks out there that have a lot of problems with what people are putting out on solar farms, and like I said, we've only been talked to pretty much by the people that support them. So I think a couple of years moratorium while we sort this out would be a good thing to do, but I'll leave that up to the board. But that's where I stand with it.
Commissioner Walker.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner Morris addresses some pretty interesting points, and I know we're not the first county that's had to deal with some of the questions Commissioner Morris is asking, and I have my own questions. One of mine continues to be, I've addressed this earlier as well, I believe, but it continues to be, how far can we go telling a landowner what they can and can't do with their land? Now, the last solar farm that was approved, and y'all correct me if my memory's not accurate, because that's happening more often these days, seems like. But seemed like the lady said, very nice family, been on that land for a couple hundred years, I believe, and said that they had been looking at trying to get a solar farm on their land for 8 years. And finally, things fell into place, and they were really optimistic that it could work this time. Well, by us approving it, we pretty well set the course for it to happen. Now, I don't know how we decide things like where is that line between what a person can do with their land and what we tell them they can't do when some other people are doing it with their land. And that's how planning and zoning works, I believe. It takes into account a lot of different aspects and different points of view. Conceptually, I support solar farms. I think that's the trend. Those and windmills, I think they call it green power. I think that's the trend for the future. It is clean energy. And even though I think Commissioner Morris at one time said 20% efficient, and this time I think it was 15.
It's somewhere down there.
But I don't know how you calculate that, because it's just sitting there generating power. And there's no input except from the sun, and so how do we determine how efficient the sun is?
Well, step one is it gets dark half of the time.
Well, it does.
That's step one in calculating it. But then there's further calculations that'll easily get you to the 12, 15%.
It's not burning fuel, and it's not, you don't have to fertilize it, so there's some advantages. Part of the presentation we saw when we approved the last solar farm, the people presenting the information were talking about this is a way that some farms can keep their farm and their family. It's not always possible to do it anymore with just crops, that this is something steadfast, ongoing, last 20 years or so, and I kind of agree with Commissioner Morris on this one. I wish they could make them a little prettier, because they do kind of stand out. But there's a lot of different things to be considered, and I don't want to infringe too heavily on a person's right to use their land in a way that would best benefit them if it's not overly detrimental to other citizens in our county. And as far as a solar farm, I don't think I'd mind living beside one. They're quiet. They don't cause any problems that I think would directly affect living beside of them. So we got a lot of questions. Now, another thing that I'm sitting here trying to deal with is how much input does our planning department need to have? I think they're working on some guidelines and trying to come up with some guidance for how to deal with permits for solar farms. 2 years ago, maybe 3, I was at a commissioners conference, annual conference, and one of the breakouts I chose to go to was on solar farms. And I sat there and listened with great interest. I thought, gee, if I had significant acreage and getting harder and harder to get people to help harvest and all that sort of thing, I might consider one for my land. And I really haven't changed all that much in how I'm viewing them. Since that time, there were some people, I think they were from NC State, doing a big part of the presentation, and they talked about the pluses and minuses. And yes, it's not all pluses. There's some downside to this and downside to about anything. But I still think we do have some work to do. And it may be something like a limit. How much acreage are we willing to set aside for this type thing? But I just don't want to slam the door in everybody's face till we kind of figure out a way to work our way through this. I know if the, if the folks that were here at the meeting where we approved this last solar farm, if we had told them no, voted no, I think that would have been devastating to them, because they had high hopes of making this happen. And it is a pretty area of the county, no doubt. So there's so many times things come back to where's the balance? How far can we go in this direction? How far should we go? And keep some sort of balance within our county. And I'll stop there, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Langford?
I agree that solar farm, we ought to put a moratorium on it till we can get more information from the state, and also think about how much land in Stokes County we want to tie up, or not tie up, but have for this purpose. So there's a lot of questions that I've got on it before I would want to even touch it either way. So I don't want to. This is discussed tonight, and I'm not ready, not even close ready to saying anything about the solar farms. That's all.
Commissioner Benoit?
So in other words, you're not ready to say yea or nay at this point. What was the vote on the last solar farm? My wife was in the hospital with surgery that day.
3-1.
3-1. Well, at this point, I also would like to, I certainly would like to get as much information as I can, but at this point, a moratorium, you better be real sure when you start putting a moratorium and telling people what they can do with the property on it. So I'm not saying I'm 100% sure that I would be against a moratorium. I'm not going to go out on the limb tonight and say that, because this is just a discussion. But, you know, at this point, I just feel like when I have absolute knowledge that there are more negatives than there are positives. I think people, when they own their property and you don't see anything that can cause harm, I think they have the right to do what they want to with the property. That's all I've got, Mr. Chairman, at this point. Of course, we're just in discussion, I know, so.
I got one more comment.
Okay. Yeah, Commissioner.
Ever what we do, this needs to be run through the planning department. The other one we passed came from the planning. So, I mean, before I would consider either or. I would want to know how the planning, people feels about it.
Okay. I've been pretty straightforward on these from day one, since we had our first one come through. Y'all put up some pretty good ideas and stuff on this. Commissioner Morris has a good point on, there's more coming down the road right here already, ones we wasn't aware of. And I will also echo what Commissioner Walker had said, and Commissioner Mendenhall as well. I've never been one to really tell taxpayers who's owned land for a long time or any time, and what to do with their property, and when it's not causing any harm or threat to anyone else. That was really what made the last one such an easy decision for me on that. Was it was going to be hid, 75 feet vegetation, so you couldn't see it from the road. The land had been in the family for 200 and some years, is that correct? That was going to be passed down to their son. They said they was not going to allow any type of commercial business to come on the property at all. They was not going to allow any kind of housing development. And of course, that little area right there is an area we was looking at putting it, sewer and water in the future. So it kind of shot that part down. I believe if I heard her right, she's actually planning on living on that land and building a house out there next to the solar farm. So they were still farming and everything still going on. So that one was a very easy decision for me to make on that one. But vice versa, no, we don't want to be riding down the road. Come back home from North Myrtle Beach yesterday, riding down 74, 73, what it is. Seemed right many, that was right there on the road. And it catches your eye. I mean, just as soon as you walk by, it does catch your eye. So as far as me, if it's out there somewhere out of the way, and of course it's got to be kind of close to Duke Power or substations and whatnot to be any kind of efficiency to them. But I do agree, we do need to have something in place to kind of make sure we don't get overrun or have too many out there, but something we definitely need to discuss on a little bit further, I agree. Any follow-ups on that?
Yeah, just a couple things, Mr. Chairman. The thing about, I go back to cell towers. One of the reasons people don't like cell towers in certain locations is because it's going to affect their view. Well, in Stokes County, a lot of times the view is looking down because of our terrain. If you put these things in the right place, that view is going to be 10 times worse than looking at a little pole sticking up, half or 2-3 miles away. So, I think, whenever they come and want to put one up there by the park, we have the park committee doesn't even have any input on solar farms. They do on cell towers. They don't even have any input on solar farms, according to our ordinances. And like I said, we're getting no advice from any experts on this. We're just letting them pop in one after another. So, to me, it shouldn't take long for the planning department to put a draft ordinance together on these that have some very basic things in it about like what percentage we're willing to accept of our area in the county or whatever. But this thing about, telling people what to do with their property, I agree with you guys on that, but there's a lot of folks in the county would be real happy if we just did away with all our zoning regulations. I hear that all the time. They're sick of them, sick of the stuff that they have to do because of that. So, this gets down to a more basic question of, do you want to have zoning or not? To me, because anytime you zone something, you're telling somebody what to do with their property. Anyway, that's all I have for now. I don't know what y'all want to do this, put it to action next time or discussion next time. Or...
I'd like to put at least a discussion the next time. I don't want to.
Okay.
That's good with me, to discussion.
Mr. Walker.
I can go with discussion, but would like to have David here when we discuss this.
That's a good idea. Excellent idea.
Also, I agree with Commissioner Morris and his basic line of thinking. It's better to do something in advance instead of letting things go and then wish we had done something. So I can agree with that concept. Just want it to be as fair as possible to all involved, as fair to the landowners and all the rest of the citizens in our county, anybody else that might be impacted by it. considering that we do live in a beautiful county, particularly this area of the county. And we don't want to just scrap that or take too much away from it. We want to preserve it. And at the same time, we want to be realistic and reasonable. If I may mention a quick story, when I was on the board in King, the King City Council, and then mayor, this thing kind of catchword became affordable housing. It seemed like every time we had a zoning request, it was, the majority of them were affordable housing. Well, then the question became, how much affordable housing is enough? And I think we're looking at a similar situation with the solar farms. How much Stokes County land can we allocate for solar farms at this time? And we might have a certain threshold in mind, certain amount for now, maybe come back and look later and say, well, we could actually handle a few more, so we open it back up. But anyway, I think we're doing a good thing by discussing this and looking into it. And if my memory is right, help me again, I believe David Sutterth, our inspections and zoning person, said he was working on this. He was looking at some guy, am I remembering right?
Supposed to be, yeah.
And I'd like to see what he comes up with. And I would put some value on whatever that might be. Thank you, sir.
Anything else? All right, so we'll put this on discussion for next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, that's a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Shannon, are we transmitting? Because somebody texted me and said they couldn't find it on Facebook.
I
Is
checked it,
everything normal?
I checked it again a second ago and we're still, it still
So you
says
was looking on
we're
Facebook?
streaming. It's YouTube.
It's YouTube.
I mean, YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, I checked it when we first started and then midway through and
That's good.
everything's going, and we're still streaming. Are you looking now?
Always,
Okay.
Will's got it.
Okay,
always
good.
pop up another
Sometimes
window
if
right there,
they'll-
just make sure it's going through and it's showing it.
If they'll go to the link through the county link, it'll take them straight to the meeting. It's hard to find it. Sometimes if you go straight to YouTube, it's harder to find it that
Okay.
way. So go to the county one, check the link for video, and then click on it from there. It's easier.
Okay, good. Instruct them if you don't mind while we're
Yeah,
discussing.
go ahead.
Okay. We're just gonna take a quick recess. We'll try to get back in about 5 minutes.
Some help.
I,
Okay, you're
where's
right.
my shirt like that, Amos?
Call the meeting back to order. Go to our final thing, discussion. Item E, the proposed ordinance to protect historical monuments and buildings in Stokes County. Commissioners, this is something I'd come up with. And of course, there are laws protecting certain statues and everything else, but as we see nowadays, it don't really mean nothing. As you see out here, we got a nice little thing, Charters of Freedom, I'd like to see protected, and there's other things in the county I'd like to see protected. So that's just pretty much it. I've got with Mr. Browder there to type up something for us. I haven't checked, I'm sorry.
I added it today, but there's also some copies if you.
Okay. Okay, so there is something in here, if y'all had time to read it.
Reading it
I'm
right
reading
now.
it now.
All right,
I've already read
a few minutes there.
I've been trying to read it the whole meeting, but y'all been distracting me. With all these other issues.
Commissioner Mendenhall, since you done read it, do you have any questions or comments on this?
it. No, I did. I read it twice, in fact, because this, to me, was a very important issue here that we had under discussion. So I have no questions at all. I thought it was very well put together.
Thank you, sir.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
May I share
Yes, sir.
thought? I may have some questions, but I would think, I have no problem with this. I can support this in a heartbeat. But I would think there's already existing laws that people who deface or destroy a statue are breaking.
There he is.
But they're going, there's no consequences. I heard in Raleigh that statues were torn down, top pushed over, arms and legs broken off, and these were tied on ropes and dragged through the
Streets.
streets. Where's our law enforcement? We pay for law enforcement.
The problem is your political leaders right there is not enforcing this. They're actually allowing it.
And things happened in Winston-Salem that obviously broke a list of laws, and nothing happened. So if this gives us an extra hold, I don't care who the people are or what they are. Anybody who tears down something that is not their property, destroys someone else's property or public property, should be, where's the punishment? Where's the consequences? Is our country just getting out of control?
Pretty much.
I think you said a key word there, destruction of property and other things. You hit some nails right there.
Yeah. I mean, if one of us goes out and does something destructive to our fine memorial here, we should be punished. There should be consequences. And I think our chairman has came up with a pretty good idea here. It brings some attention to a situation in a way that could have a positive effect on it. And I think in our county, that if someone breaks down a statue and they are caught in the act, that they should count on having to face some strong consequences.
I agree.
So if this will be a step in that direction, I can easily support it. And I'm not targeting any particular race, nationality, ethnic group, or anything else. I'm saying it applies to all across the board.
It was history.
Yeah.
And Tyler, I got one question for you. In Section 3 jurisdiction, it says the ordinance shall apply to all Stokes County except for those areas in incorporated municipalities and their extraterritorial jurisdictions. So does that mean like Danbury, King, and Walnut Cove would also have to adopt this?
Yes, they could just vote to adopt this ordinance. They could adopt their own.
Okay. Okay.
Within
All right, so it does have to go through in a way to leave that, just consider it all of the county. Okay. Commissioner Morris, did you have anything on it?
Yeah, just a second, I'll be right ready.
Okay.
The one question I have is, are we talking about monuments and plaques and so forth that are owned by the county?
Owned by the county, located on county-owned property,
Okay,
or located on public property if it is a designated historical monument.
okay. So, like these signs these little metal signs along the side of the road, would that be public property? You know, like the one that's in Danbury, the one there's a lot of them around.
That's on state right of way.
On state right of way, so would that apply to those signs then too? Okay. But this basically just gives the sheriff one more tooth or one more tool in his toolkit to address this issue, right?
It's just an extra layer of protection. There's existing state statute which protects historical monuments and buildings. So they're in place, but it's just an extra layer of protection. And also another important thing, I think, you were making a statement, this board's making a statement, what the policy of this board is.
Right.
As far as these historical monuments and pointing out the importance of it.
Same thing with whenever the Second Amendment right there, you know, it's always something they're protecting it, but we want everybody to know we stand strong behind it, so.
I have a question if no one else needs to
Yeah,
go.
Judge.
What are, you heard me mention consequences. What are the consequences for violating this? Destroying public property.
It's a misdemeanor, I think it says.
That's in, section 7.
7-2.
Yeah,
7-2.
Fine of $500 per offense as well as all
that's
other
the
applicable
prescribed, that's
criminal penalties.
penalty for violating a local ordinance. So, you know, that's all the specific criminal penalty that you can put in it. And of course, any other applicable criminal penalty would apply, like destruction of real property.
This is what I'm looking at here, section 7, number 2, seems to be a state law. That just isn't necessarily being enforced. Or maybe it is, and I'm just
It is here.
not hearing, across different areas.
Yeah, but here it's being enforced by the sheriff, there's no doubt about that.
Right. I would think so.
I have no doubt about that.
Would be.
I support it 100%. You remember when ISIS cranked up over there in Iraq, first thing they did is went through the countryside destroying every piece of historical property they could find, statues and everything else. That's what terrorists do. They try to erase history, and so this is a good statement saying that we don't agree with doing that.
Paragraph 3, I put in the specific statement, any law enforcement officer in Stokes County is authorized and directed to enforce this ordinance. So it's specific direction. That is being enforced.
So do I have the full support from the whole board on that?
Mr. Chairman, I think after listening to the board, I'd like to go ahead and move this from discussion to action tonight.
I'm fine with that.
I'm good with it.
Mr. Walker? All right. Then we'll put that as item B on the action agenda tonight.
And I'll send a copy of this to Wanaco and King and Danbury and request that their boards adopt this or a similar ordinance.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on now to
Really,
the...
I'm sorry.
That's okay, go ahead. What do you have?
It's really up to them, though, whether they choose to adopt any ordinance or not.
Right, but we can,
But you can at least share with them what this board has done.
yeah. That's what I'm gonna do.
All right, we'll move to our action agenda. Item A, the Stokes County Veterinarian Contract Renewal. As presented at the last meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item B, the proposed ordinance to protect historical monuments and buildings in Stokes County.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, move.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.